Minutes late. That was purely my fault. You'll notice I am alone on the stage. My partner in crime, Mr. John Wechter, unfortunately has some foot surgery that's going to be coming up. We wish him well. He'll be on his feet in no time at all. So thank you. But be not dismayed. This is a jam-packed show nonetheless. So today we're actually going to be talking about reason. But prior to that, I generally like to do just a quick touch on sales current events. And for the people that are in sales, this is going to come as no surprise to you. You know, I have almost sadly said that it's kind of this, dumpster fire of circumstances in the world, whether it's inflation or gas. We are, by every economic indicator, by the way, we are in a recession. Two consecutive quarters of negative growth is a recession. 3 negative quarters, by the way, kind of tilters on to depression. I don't think we're going to go there. But if it happens the third month, as they're saying that it's going to. So if you're in sales, one of the things that we talked about way back when we were doing our COVID sessions is that you may have to work twice as hard, potentially, to get the same results. Now, nobody likes that, the idea of working harder and still getting the same. But if you want to stay where you are and not lose ground, you may potentially have to work twice as hard. So if you're advertising and you're investing $1,000 a month in your advertising, you might possibly have to invest $2,000 in order to potentially get the same results that you had before. So now, but again, I'm not painting a dire picture, because I believe that very soon, probably sometime towards the end of the year, if things change in the political theater and different players come in, you're going to see a revitalization come back stronger than you've ever seen. There's a lot of pent-up demand in the world that is just waiting to make sense to be released. Okay, so that, again, we never make a political statement, but I do believe there's going to be opportunities ahead. So let's talk about the idea of reason. Having a reason. Having a reason. Now, everyone is busy. I don't think that there's any misnomers of the fact that, we are probably the most stressed nation on earth. When you look at the United States, we don't eat right, we don't sleep right, we don't, do the vast majority of things that we should be doing. Now, again, in many cases, we're very successful despite this. But because there's so much noise in the machine, most people need something above "it's just good for me." Now, we all know what's good for me. We should all eat better. I think everybody knows that. I don't think it's anything that's hidden. And yet we don't. We should sleep better. We don't. We should be more conscientious for stress. Again, we don't. Even though we know that we should, and there's all kinds of evidence and justification, it is a reason that people have to have. Let me give you the best example of how not to have a reason. No, you're fine. You're fine. We move the tables around so it just skews right here in the center. So let me give you a great example. So I get a call. This is like 3 years ago, and I get a call from one of the salespeople that sells stuff to my company. And I do make in my practice 2 things. Number 1, if you email me, whatever you are, even if it's a solicitation email, I respond to every single email. Every single email I get. Because I believe people fall into one of 2 categories. I believe that they could potentially be a customer for me. So if somebody sends me a sales solicitation, they're probably a salesperson. Therefore, they're probably what? A prospect for a sales trainer. Or they may have someone in their world that can forward my interest. Right? They may not be a prospect themselves, but they may know someone. So I believe if you're investing more than 50% of the effort to get to know me, the least that I could do is respond back. I can send you a quick email. Hey, listen, I'm not a good prospect for you, blah, 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 blah. But if you're ever considering sales training, think of us. And I'd put a little pitch, maybe put a little flyer or something along with it. Maybe I might say, hey, listen, I'm probably not a good prospect for you, but if you know anyone in your family, your life, your spouses, friends, that does make their living in sales, I'd be a great guy for them to talk to. So number 1, I respond to every email. I also respond to every phone call. Now, I know people think, like, how do you have the time? Well, if you do, and you're conscientious with the utilization of time, it's really not that hard. Because a lot of times when I get that phone call, it might be, hey, listen, I don't know if I'm a prospect for you, but I'll tell you what, I got 5 minutes. Give me your pitch. The only thing I ask is at the end of the 5 minutes, let me tell you what I do, because maybe there's somebody in your world that I can talk to. Now, I've done that thousands of times. It's interesting. I will give you a telephone call that will be returned 100% of the time. When somebody sends you an email and you call them back and you say, I received your email and I have a question. That call will get returned 100. I saw your ad in the newspaper and I have a question. I'm driving down I-10 and I saw your sign on your truck and I have a question. Guaranteed to be returned. Guaranteed to have that call returned. So let's jump into reason. Because there's so much noise in the machine, most salespeople make the mistake of just contacting people for no reason whatsoever. So this is what it sounds like. Hey, Stephen, good morning. So this is what it sounds like. It would be something that sounds like this, and we've all had that, right? You have a salesperson that calls you, and here's what they say. Hi, I'm just calling to say hi, right? No, and really, right? So I get the sales call. Again, I call everybody back. So I get a voicemail message. You know, I'm not going to use real names of the companies because they're kind of household names. Hi, this is Joe Winger Wanger Don. Haven't talked to you in a while. Just wanted to call and say hi. And because I call everybody back, this is what I did. I said, hey, I got your message, and I wanted to call you back, you know, and you just wanted to say hi. What's going on? And here's what he goes. He goes, hi. Really? I mean, he called to say hi. Now, the reality was he called to try to sell me something. He would have been better suited to say, Don, I got 6 new, thingamajigs here that you might be interested in buying, and let me tell you about them. And I'd be like, sure, tell me about them. You never know. It might be the next best mousetrap. So in today's world, because there's so much noise in the machine, there are so many things that are vying for your attention. There are so many areas that struggle to get value. You have to have a reason. People are not going to come. Even though it's the right thing to do, and even though it's good for them, you still have to have a reason. So if you're writing notes, I want you to write that down. You got to have a reason. Do you need some paper or anything?
Yes.
Here.
Yes,
No problem. Here. I always make sure that I have my little pad folio with me. And I have, there's some pens. Cody, can you grab some pens right there? They're like in that little thing right there. Here you go. I'll give you a bunch of them.
Thank you.
No problem. So let's talk about that. So you got to have a reason. That's number one. Now, people are motivated for one of 3 reasons. And I'm going to want you to write this down right now because there's 2 distinct things. So number 1 is you have to have a reason. Number 2, people are motivated by one of 3 reasons. They're motivated by fear, write that down, curiosity, or what we call immediate personal enrichment. Those are the 3 motivating items. Let me give you some examples. So, and when I say motivating, that's an action. It makes somebody want to do something. People are motivated by fear, curiosity, and immediate personal enrichment. Let's talk about fear, right? And let me give you an example, and I'll tell you a story, right? Say, for example, your grandmother, whether she's alive or not, but at the time your grandmother was alive, every time on your birthday, she sent you a birthday card, and she always put a crispy C note in there, all right, $100. And now it's your, hell yeah, right? So now it's your birthday, you go to the mailbox, and there's a birthday card from Grandma, who's going to tell you how much she loves you and adores you and how wonderful you are and how the sun rises and sets in my beautiful brown eyes. And on top of that, there's $100. And there's also a letter from the IRS. Right? Now, wouldn't you want to open Grandma's letter first, right? You want to feel good, maybe get some money before you open the IRS letter? Statistically, over 90% of the people go to the IRS letter first. Why? Well, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change, right? You should get the happy news first, and maybe it'll make, no. Fear is an incredibly strong motivator. People do so many things because of fear. Now, I'm not saying for you to scare the people that are in your world, because even fear has a limitation. Give you an example. For the people that smoke, when I started smoking, right, I was 17. Back in the heavy metal rock star world, we all smoked. And at that point in time, if you remember what it said on the side of the cigarette package, right? Cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health. Maybe hazardous to your health. Maybe, we don't know, kind of possibly, right? Again, this is like in the 70s. Now if you pick up a pack of cigarettes, you know what it says? You smoke, you die. That's it. You smoke, you die. There's no maybe. It's not, maybe might, no. You smoke, you die. Well, you'd think people would stop smoking. No, hasn't been the case. Fear is a very strong motivator. Number 2, curiosity. Why would somebody jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
That's crazy.
Yep. Remember now in World War II when parachutes first got started? Right? You realize in World War I, there was no parachutes. You crashed with your plane. right? In and around the Second World War, they said, well, you know what? Maybe not only can we get people out if the plane's going down, but maybe we could take the plane places we want to go and throw the people out and actually get them in there. And at that point in time, not everybody survived. Let's just say parachute technology wasn't what it was today. Curiosity, right? The person that decides they're going to jump off of a tall building, jump out of an airplane, ride a motocross bicycle. You look at, extreme skiing, all of these incredibly dangerous, absolutely unnecessary things. And yet people do them. And it makes total sense to them. That's a motivator. The next item is immediate personal enrichment. Why would somebody go to Las Vegas, which, by the way, I was at a speaking engagement 2 weeks ago. And I remember standing in front of, now I was, my client's a Waldorf Astoria, and I'm standing in front of the Mirage at the time. And I'm looking at these enormous buildings all around, and you know what I realize? They're all built on losers. They're all built on losers. And every day, thousands more empty out of the airplanes. Because in their mind, they might what? They might be the one winner. Immediate personal enrichment. It's the person that says, I'm going to put it all on black. I could lose it all, but I could also double it. I'm going to put it all on red. I could lose it all, but I could double it. So those are your three motivating factors. If you want activity, you're going to either touch in a fear, curiosity, or immediate personal enrichment. Now, people buy, so let me write motivate. People buy, however, ATE, they buy for a series of similar reasons. People buy for pain. Now, by the way, it could be physical pain. You go to the doctor, you go to the dentist, right? You have a physical pain. Historically, it's a differentiation between where you are and where you think you should be. So when I say pain, although it could be physical pain, that's the doctor, the dentist, that's the physical pain. Historically, it's a differentiation between where you are and where you want to be. So Cody, you're a financial planner, right? Most people realize that they're leaving money on the table. The average person leaves an enormous amount of money on the table by not going to somebody like you that knows what the hell they're talking about. And we have a lot of financial planners. In fact, about 1/3 of my practice is the financial services world. And here's the thing I tell everybody. Go talk to a financial planner, right? You wouldn't do your own heart surgery, right? You're not going to represent yourself in court. Why are you going to allow the person who is the least experienced to handle your money? Pain. People buy for pain. Could be physical pain, could be real pain, doctor, dentist. But historically, it's a differentiation between where they are and where they think they are. Second thing is they buy for pleasure. They buy for pleasure. I have a buddy of mine who, right back in Michigan. He absolutely tells me, I need a new jet ski. Now, who needs a new jet ski? Really, what part of your body requires a jet ski to survive? I got another buddy spent $5,000 on golf clubs. Then he told me how he needed it. You know what? He got worse. He got worse. People buy for pleasure. It's the trips, it's the cruises, it's the motorcycles, it's the jet skis. Very strong motivator, by the way. And the third is called fear of future. Now, the fear of future, depending on the industry that you're in, may in fact be the strongest. Fear of future is a life insurance purchase. It's a health insurance purchase, right? You're not required to have health insurance, but you're buying it as a hedge in case what? In case you get sick, right? You're not obligated to do it. Now, it's interesting because right now you're obligated to buy car insurance. But car insurance is the cheapest insurance in town. Because if you get hurt in your car, the doors are open for you. You get 80% of your income from your no-fault carrier. They pay for everything with no copay. Better deal than you would even get for your health insurer. But if you weren't required to have automobile insurance, most people would not have it. So you got to have a reason. So if I want you to buy, does it not make sense to tie into one of those three areas? Pain, pleasure, or immediate personal enrichment. And yet most salespeople never do that. They never do that. They try to wow you with your new Nimbus 3000, right? Let me tell you how wonderful this is, and let me tell you all the features and benefits. And the reality is that people don't buy features and benefits. They buy the impact that features and benefits give you. So when you're developing a reason, when you're doing prospecting, when you're trying to put together some promotional material, I'm going to encourage you to, first of all, look at the motivating reasons. Remember the motivators? People buy for what? Fear, right? They're afraid of something, right? Afraid of running out of money. You know, it's terrible. I mean, but what's about a year or two ago? They said 50% of the people that are retiring have $1,000 or less. Now, that just doesn't seem possible. But I'm sure it's not a lie. But if you think of it like that, that's something, if you're 50 and you're 10 years away, you think that should instill fear in you? Absolutely. Curiosity. I love a second opinion. I think a second opinion is the greatest thing in the world. I'll give you the great example that I always use on second opinions, right? Imagine you had a doctor, and you loved your doctor. You've been going to him for 30 years, right? Took care of you, took care of your family, took care of your kids, you know, your grandparents, took care of everybody, and you loved them. And you walked into the doctor's office because you were having kind of a pain in your stomach. You thought it was indigestion. And the doctor says, you know what, Bob, I got some bad news for you. I think it's cancer. And I looked at the test, and not only is it cancer, it's very advanced cancer. And I say, Doc, how much time do I have? And he says, you know what, I think you maybe got 30 days. And that's being generous. Right, I mean, really. Now, would you go home and go, that's it, Doc Jones says I got 30 days, I'm going to lay down and die? No, what would you do? What would the average person do? Exactly, right? Not that Dr. Jones isn't a good doctor, but he's a human being and he's fallible. You're going to go to somebody else, and they may say, you're right, it's 30 days. Or they may say, you know what, I think that's a little bit dire. I think we could try this, 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 and this first. That doesn't mean you don't think Dr. Jones is a good doctor. It doesn't mean you don't have respect and appreciation for him. That idea, that curiosity, that second opinion, and then again, the last and final one, immediate personal enrichment. How does you calling me be able to get all the lemons when you pull the bar down? Right? How does it make the coins jing in the little thing? Right? Buying influences. They buy for pain, they buy for pleasure, they buy for fear of future. If you're going to promote or prospect to anyone, it has to be through one of those, because we know those are the only legitimate conduits that this information comes through. So for those that are joining us, I should also appreciate and thank for the people that are joining us on Facebook Live. We appreciate you being here. YouTube Live, we appreciate you being here as well. If you're a client of Don Zavis Sales Training, you're going to be joining us on our Zoom production. And if you are watching us on our Vimeo archive, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. We're going to be opening up Twitter. So if you're a Twitter user and LinkedIn, I think probably the next week or two as we kind of work all those out. So thank you so much for being here. I will work dutifully and diligently to make this a good utilization of your time. So let's keep going. So you have two choices in the reason world. And you want to write these down. For those that are joining us again through technology, write this down. Active and proactive. Right? So proactive is pretty simple. I mean, it only makes sense. Reactive, however, is when something's working against you. So the adage that we say, you can either act or be acted upon. And I will tell you, the times that I was acted upon didn't come out as good for me as the times when I've acted. So I want your reasoning, right, because we're talking about reason, to be very much proactive. It has to be something that goes out to them. It's got to be something that shows up in their inbox. And a lot of people will, put things online, and they'll, put ads in newspapers, all of which are good. There's nothing wrong with those. The problem being is it has a lot of moving parts before it's effective. For example, if you're in a newspaper, and again, I have many newspapers that are clients of ours, but you have to buy the newspaper. And then you have to sit down with the newspaper. And then you have to open the newspaper, and then you've got to read it, and if all the stars align, they come to your ad with an open mind, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem being is if that's all that you do, right, you're rolling the dice. I like proactive marketing and promotion. Something that shows up in your Twitter, something that shows up on your tweet, something that shows up as a text, something that shows up in your email, something that you don't have to go get. Even social media, for example. You have to go to Facebook, and then you have to scroll through. Now, if you've got, in my case, I have 8,000 people that are friends on Facebook, right? Well, 4 of them will come to my funeral, but they call themselves friends. So that means on an average day, if only 10% of the people in my news feed put on one post, do the math. That's 800 posts. And if you look at each post for only 10 seconds, Do the mathematics, and you can see why, although social media is critically important, I'm not diminishing the value, but I want something that's going to be in front of them as quick as possible. So along with a reason, you want to have a proactive approach. You want a situation where you're going to be in front of them, and they're making good, strong decisions onto what kind of audience that they're going to give you. Again, everyone is so busy without a reason, nobody's going to do anything. And that reason is the critical, and again, most people don't know the reason. They think they do, but they've never actually gone to the people that are out there in the world. Next item is, are you different enough? So I'm going to say proactive versus reactive. Now I'm going to say, are you different enough? Are you different enough? We live in this Me Too world. And when I say Me Too, I don't talk about the politically significant aspects of the Me Too movement. I'm just saying that there are so many people that are fighting to be like everybody else. Right? I mean, it's a great example. I saw it yesterday on the thing. Arby's, one of my beloved fast food restaurants, and as my expanding belly will tell you, I like fast food restaurants. Now they're serving hamburgers. Really? Right? And so I go into Arby's, and I see the ad, right? And I'm in Arby's, and I said, what made you guys decide you just didn't want to have the best roast beef? You had to have hamburgers. Now, and by the way, they may be fabulous. I haven't had one. If I'm going to Arby's, I'm having roast beef. But the interesting thing about it is the whole world is chasing to be like everybody else. So when one retailer does it, so when Home Depot does it, Lowe's does it. And when McDonald's has a dollar menu, then Wendy's has to have a dollar menu. And when this company does it, this company does it. And the problem being is they're trying so hard to be the same thing, nobody's now standing alone. What that means in our world is that if you sound and look and act like everybody else, well, then I might as well go to the cheapest guy. So if you sound like you sound like you sound like you, and you see it all the time, right? Lowest prices in town, cheapest, 50% off, greatest discounts. Well, if you all sound exactly the same, I might as well go to the cheapest guy. Why? Because you're all the same. You're not making any distinction between one to the other. And that's why I will often say, and for those that are taking notes, write this down. I don't want you to be like anyone else. I don't want you to say what they say. I don't want you to act like they do. I'll give you a great example of that. I tell people all the time, I'm the most expensive sales trainer I know. I am. If I find somebody who's more expensive than me, I raise my price. And I'm not kidding. I know people are like, oh, you don't do that. Sure I do. I do it all the time. Because the idea is that I don't want to be the cheapest guy. It doesn't make any sense to be the cheapest guy. There's nothing made by man that can't be the cheapest. But be prepared that when you make a statement like that, you have to have some legitimacy to your statement. So when I say I'm the most expensive guy around, which I try to be, and I get any pushback from somebody, here's what I will say. This is what I would encourage you to say. Well, Bob, even though I'm the most expensive, why do you think people keep coming back to me? Year after year, month after month, they introduce me to their family, their friends, co-workers, people at church. Why do you think they keep coming back to me, even though I'm the most expensive? Why would you think?
Because you give them benefits.
Right, you're right. By the way, out of role play, whatever she would have said, I would have said, you're right. So if you would have said, well, I guess you have great training, you know what I would have said? You're right. Well, you do good work. You're right. You're a good sales coach. You're right. Whatever you would have said, I would have said you're right, because if you say it, it must be what? True. If I say it though, if I say I'm amazing, which by the way I am fantastic, right? But if I say I'm an amazing sales trainer and sales coach, it's the ramblings of a salesperson, right? But if you say it, it must be what? True. So where everybody's out there trying to sway everybody else, telling them how great they are, the best thing Cody can do is have somebody that said, I gave Cody $1 million 3 years ago, I got $1.5 million. That's it. That's it. That's your advertising right there. And anybody who had $1 million and 3 years ago now doesn't have $1.5 million and now has $700,000, that's what they need to hear. And yet most people don't do that. They're trying to tell them how great they are and how wonderful they are. Doesn't make any difference. Are you different enough? Right? I live in Tucson. Nobody wears white shirts, ties, and suspenders in Tucson, right? Well, maybe two of us do, right? Right? I got here and I started going to events and these people were like in Hawaiian shirts and I'm like the aardvark in the room. It's like I stepped off, the Wall Street movie with Kirk Douglas in 1985, which I did, by the way, because I love the movie, right? But to me, you have to be different enough. I have people here locally, they don't remember my name. You know what they call me? The long-haired kid with suspenders. The funny thing about it is when they say long-haired kid with suspenders, if they said that to you, would you know it's me?
Oh, yeah, I would.
So that's part of the brand. Are you different enough? Is what you bring different enough? Because now everybody's trying to push the bar down. Lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Don't. I want you to be different enough. I want you to be so distinct that there's no way in the world anyone would understand or make a mistake as to who and what you are. So are you different enough? You got to have a reason. Next item, a do. This is big. If you get this, you can stop watching. Don't, because this is all fabulous. But if you get this, this will be very helpful. When I was young, my mom said something. All of our moms said the same thing. They all got the same book when we were born, right? Never listen to what people say. Only listen to what they do. Actions speak louder than. See, I don't even need to give you guys the script. You already know the words. And yet most salespeople listen to what people say, but they don't look at the activities that should support the language. For example, you get somebody that says, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested, I'm interested. And they don't call you back. And they don't return your texts. And they don't respond to your emails. And they don't respond to your letters, and they don't respond to anything. But they said they were interested, right? We only, as salespeople, remember the interested. So we call them 15 times. Hey, Bob, just calling you the 97th time like a dumbass, right? Just following up. Never listen to what they say, only listen to what they do. Actions speak louder than words. But the mistake that most salespeople do is they don't give them the do. They don't give them the diagnostic that allows you to determine their level of interest. So, for example, there are what's called low, medium, and high value dues. Low, medium, and high value dues. And if you look at it just for time, we're going to look at this just on basis of time. So a low value due is something you can do in a couple of minutes. Whereas a high value due, all right, might be something that would take an hour. All right? And you earn the right to have these different dues. Because if you're a total stranger to me and you say, Don, read this book, right? There's a good chance I'm not going to read the book. But if Randy says, Don, read this book, I'll be like, I trust Randy. Sure, I'm going to read it. Right? There must be something in there that he knows would be of value to me. But most people, again, don't even give the due. So this is what a due sounds like. So if I'm talking to someone and I say, Mrs. Jones, I think I can help you. Not exactly sure, but here's what I'd like to do. I've got a 5-question questionnaire. If it takes you 3 minutes to do it, you wasted 2 of them. All right? Let me send you out the questionnaire. Take a look. Literally, it's 2 minutes. Send it back to me so when we set up a time to talk, I'll have a better sense of what you're trying to accomplish. And I send you out this 5-minute questionnaire. 5 minutes. And I call you back the next day as we agreed, and here's what Mrs. Jones says. Oh, Don, yeah, I didn't get to it, dog and soccer practice and blah, 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 blah. And I say, you know what? Stuff happens, I get that. Think you'll have a chance to take a look at it tonight? She says, oh, yeah, for sure tonight. And I call her back the next day. She says, oh, I was going to, but I was so tired and blah, 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 blah. What is she saying to you without using the words? Exactly, right? Not that important. And not for 5 minutes. But here's the thing. What if today, in the middle of the mall, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a treasure chest that was magically going to appear in the middle of the mall, and you were the only one that knew about it at exactly 3 o'clock, but it's only going to be open for exactly 1 minute. Wouldn't you be there an hour ahead of time like this?
You bet I would.
Hell yeah, everybody would. If it's important enough, they'll do it. But if I'm just meeting somebody for the first time, I don't know the depths of the legitimacy of their interest. If I say, here's a 900, a questionnaire to do, it's going to take you 4 hours. They're not going to do it. I get that. But if I say it's 5 minutes, it could be an article, right? It could be a 5-minute video. It's something, a low-value do. Never listen to what they say. Only listen to what they do. So if I give you something, now, if the woman comes back and says, and 10 minutes after you send it to her, she sends it back all filled out, what is she telling you? Exactly. A lot of value. It's legit. I see this as something that makes sense to go forward. So the interesting thing about do's, when we talk, especially in the session of reason, I need a diagnostic, no different than a doctor with an MRI or a CAT scan or something. I need a diagnostic. I need something that doesn't rely on your words, because we've all been with that client that says, yes, I'm interested, call me next week, we'll set up an appointment. And you call next week and you leave a message, and you call the week after that, you text, you email, you blah, 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 blah. Even though they said, yes, I'm interested, call me next week. And we, like stupid salespeople, continue to chase them. No, absolutely not. Here's what you do. And for those that are taking notes, write this down. It's called a blow-up call. By the way, it's not actually a blow-up because there's no meanness in it. But I need a diagnostic. I need a way to either start the sale or close the sale. That's it. So say, for example, I was talking with Cody. We agreed to talk next week. I called him on Tuesday. I left a message. Right, I didn't hear back, and I waited the customary 3 days from the Wharton School of Business that says 3 days is customary for a phone call. And I wait for those 3 days to pass, and he doesn't contact me. Now, nowadays in 2022, you're not going to lose your calls. You're not going to lose your emails. No. That's all BS. Don't listen to that. If you call and you leave a message, the message is there. They chose not to do it. Here's the call Cody would get on day number 3. Hey, Cody, it's Don Zavis. I had left a message for you a couple of days ago, and to the best of my knowledge, you hadn't contacted me back, and I get the sense that we're not going to move forward together, and I'm totally fine with that. Let me suggest this. It's 12 o'clock on Friday. I'll keep your file on my desk until this time on Monday. And if I don't hear back from you by midnight or by 12 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, I'll go ahead and close your file. Last thing in the world I want to do is be a pest, call you a bunch of times, leave you a bunch of voicemails for something that you're not interested. However, if you are interested, contact me back immediately at 248-497-5869. Thanks, Cody. Bye. Click. Now, his action or lack of action gives me a direction. Because if noon on Monday comes, what am I going to do? And he doesn't call me back. I'm going to toss your crap. That's it. I'm going to throw it out, right? I gave you every chance. But if he's interested, as soon as he gets that message, here's what he's going to say. Call you back. Oh, no, don't throw it out. Don't throw it out. Yes, I'm interested. Let's get together Tuesday. Their action or lack of action gives me a direction. Because there's a lot of people that need to hear the words no to know it's a no. Right? A lot of salespeople, unless you say, no, I don't want it, they remember what you said 10 months ago when you said, yeah, we might be interested. Even though 10 months of avoiding you, right? They hope you die, right? They pick up their phone, look at the caller ID, and go, oh, yeah, it's Cody. Instead of just calling you and saying, hey, listen, we've decided not to do anything, which is the best thing for both of you, for you and them, but they don't do it. So I want to make sure that I give them a do. I give them a diagnostic. If I've had a client that's been a client of mine for maybe 6 months, I might give them a more significant item. It might be something that takes an hour. Possibly 2. Why? Because I've earned the right to ask that I would never have the right to ask it when we first met. So whatever your dues are, you have to make sure that you are very clear. And there needs to be a consequence, not a punishment. There's a difference between consequence and punishment. The consequence basically says is if I don't hear back from you by Monday, I'm closing your file. That's it. I'm not wishing mean stuff on you. I'm just saying that I'm not going to constantly chase you because that doesn't make any sense. You know, I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are so loud. And you will be amazed if you kind of garner that approach, how much easier and faster your life is. Because I'm not chasing things that ultimately are never going to happen. Because I'm that idealistic, and ever, hopeful salesperson. Nope, that's not the case. Next item. New way versus old way. In every industry, there's a new way of doing it, and there's an old way of doing it. In every industry, at every time, There's a new way of doing it, and there's an old way of doing it. So for example, if I'm talking to someone about sales training, I would say, are you doing sales training the old way or the new way? Now, what do you think the average person might say to the old way or the new way? I don't know. I don't know. What's the old way? What's the new way? But now what it does is it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation, right? Whereas I'm responding to a question they have as opposed to forcing on them information they have. Your approach will be very different than the old way. I think comedians, clean comedians, I believe are going to be the way of the future. I think that it's reached a point where the world is saying, you know what? No. You know, buy Disney stock now because I guarantee that the Disney movies are going to be coming out in the next 5 years. We're going to put them back on the map like they did in the 80s and early 90s. Now, I think, again, that's my opinion. But when I look at an old way versus a new way, I have to give people a reason to talk to me. So if I have a person that's got $1 million and they're 65 or 70 years old, they've been probably the better part of their life it took them to get to $1 million. And there's a very good chance they were doing the old way of investing, right? It's interesting, when I look at investments, Merrill Lynch is a client of mine, so they're also who handles my money. And I look at the things they've got me involved with now. I didn't even know these names 5 years ago. The names, the physical names of the things people are investing in now didn't exist the same way years ago, right? Spider this and EFT that, and we just did a stretch IRA. I've had an IRA since 1981. I didn't know what a stretch is, but now I'm putting money aside for the great-grandchild I don't even have yet. I just have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old grandson, and my daughter's 5 months pregnant. But we're putting money aside for the great-grandchild that doesn't even exist. That whole idea, that program, and I don't want to speak to your industry, Cody, but that thing didn't exist 10 years ago. So when I say, are you investing the old way or the new way, there's a very good chance a 70-year-old guy is probably saying, well, I've been doing the same thing for the last 40 years, probably the old way. And now I have a reason to have a conversation. Well, you may want to consider some of the new types of programs that are available. Maybe it makes sense to sit down over a cup of coffee. There's no pressure, right? You're not broken. The way you're doing it isn't bad. But people are looking for immediate personal enrichment, curiosity. If I gave X amount of dollar for you, everyone understands the word of opportunity cost. Or if you don't, you should. Because if you give Cody $1 million and he makes $1.5 million, and you give somebody else $1 million, they make $1.2 million, you actually lost $300,000. Because had you given it to the best horse in the race, you would have made $1.5 million. That's the opportunity cost. And people have to understand that that's something, and if they don't think of it in that way, they want to. All right? By the way, I know I'm going quick through this, but I want to make sure we touch on everything before we get done. So new way versus old way. That's a great way to give somebody a reason to talk. Most people, again, they do what they've always done. And there's a great little kind of a sing-songy phraseology that we use, and I'll say it for those that are joining us electronically, I'll say it slowly. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always gotten. So there are people that put on the same clothes, they get in the same car, they pull out of the same driveway, and they go to the same office and do the same thing the same way they did for 30 years, and then wonder why they're not having different results. Because if you do the same thing, if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always gotten, right? What are you going to change? And again, I'm not saying you're broken, but we're talking about a reason. Let's keep going on because we've got tons and tons to cover. Second opinion. Well, we talked a little bit about that. Second opinion. And if you think of that, and use that doctor example, by the way, because I find that the average person gets that. Right? I think most people are kind of smart in the idea that if you almost give them, that's why Jesus was amazing, because he taught, everything was in parables. Right? Everything was in parables. Like, I don't care, you could be you're a shepherd 2,000 years ago, but you can get this. The idea of a second opinion doesn't mean that your way's wrong. It just means there's another way to look at it, whether it's finance or entertainment or, in my case, sales training. All I'm saying is because the devil you know may or may not be better than the devil you don't know, but most people don't know that. Most people are so afraid of change that they will do everything to avoid it. And I have a standing kind of a position, and I encourage everyone who's listening to me, write this down. I say yes to everything. That doesn't mean that I buy everything. It means I say yes to everything. So if you think you have a better mousetrap, I'll give you a few moments because it's in my best interest, in fact, for you to have a better mousetrap. So for example, if you meet somebody in a networking group and they say, I sell car insurance. What does the average person say at that point or life insurance, right? I sell life insurance. What does the average person say when faced with someone who sells life insurance when they themselves have life insurance? What do they normally say? I already have life insurance. But the reality is, you know what? I have life insurance, but you might have a better mousetrap. Tell you what I'll do. I'm going to send you my declaration page tomorrow. You take a look because I'm hoping what? I'm hoping they sell me. I'm hoping they have a better mousetrap. And that's why in my world, because everything is constantly scrutinized, constantly looked at, constantly evaluated, I rest very comfortable in the idea that I truly believe that I'm getting the best deal in all the things. Doesn't mean the cheapest. I would rather somebody come back and say, listen, I can get you a 30% better life insurance policy for the same amount of money that you're paying right now. Now, in my world, that's better than saying, I can save you 20% for exactly what you have. I'm already used to paying whatever that amount is. But most people are so terrified of saying yes. They're so terrified of potentially being sold that they say no to everything. They go into the relationship almost as a negative. And here's what I would always say. Listen, let me send you my declaration page. Take a look, right? I'm hoping you can give me a better deal. The only thing that I ask is that after we've had a chance to take a look at my stuff, you feel comfortable introducing me to whoever in your company would make the sales decisions. Would you be okay with that? I said that 1,000 times. Why? Because I'm bearing gifts, right? I'm priming the pump. I'm giving you something first. Most people in a networking group, or most people in general, they want you to give them something first. And that's why when you go to a lot of networking groups, right, everybody's there to sell. Well, if nobody's there to buy and everybody's there to sell, it's going to be a pretty crappy group. I want to walk in the room and say, what do you do? Right? Sell me. Right? Tell me what you do. Tell me how you do it. Give me a chance. If I can in any way, shape, or form, have you take a look at that business, whatever it is, I'm going to try to do that. Why? Because I say yes to everything. Doesn't mean that I buy everything. And when you think about it in terms of a reason, that's life-changing. Because I will tell you, when people are trying to sell you, their defensive posture drops immediately. And it's in my best interest to what? Have them sell me. I hope that they have a better mousetrap. I hope they have an improvement over whatever it is. And I can't tell you how many times I've bought from them and they didn't buy from me. But it's about equal the amount of times that I didn't buy from them, but they bought from me. Why? Because we give you a reason. There's a reason why you want to be able to entertain those kinds of conversations. Let's keep going. All right. I'm running out of paper here. What makes you buy? You buy. I think everybody out there is probably pretty good at picking the market. Some people, it's coupons, right? You got a coupon, they love that. Some people, if they can't get a buy one, get one free, forget it. Other people, they're going to call 90 people. They're going to drive all over town. They're going to waste so much gas. Any money that they would save is going to be long gone and just their time and effort. Not me. I believe that the world's pretty competitive. I think everybody's at about the same place. I don't think it makes sense to go 10 ways a Sunday. But the people that call me customer, I believe it's in their best interest that I continue to make money. So the guy that sold us our fleet cars, why is it in his best interest that I continue to make money? Exactly. It's in his best interest that I make more money. So now the people in Michigan at the Land Rover dealership where we got our fleet cars at, he has sent me multiple leads. Because if he's talking to someone and the idea of sales or revenue or business comes up, here's what he says. I got a buddy of mine, Don. He's got an office in Michigan here. I'd love for you to talk to him. Don't know if he can help you, but here's his number. Give him a call. Because why? It's in his best interest that I continue to make money so I can buy cars from him. So we have a thing called checkbook prospecting. Checkbook prospecting, essentially, we go back to reason. Checkbook prospecting essentially says that all the people that call you customer, it's in their best interest to send you business. Why? So you can keep buying from them. So Cody, when you call your mortgage company, your real estate person, if you had I'm making this up, by the way, for illustration. But say, for example, you had a real estate person, and you bought a house from that real estate person. And that real estate person has a pretty high assurance that if you buy a bigger, better house, you'd likely go back to them. So it would be in their best interest, their own financial best interest, to shove every business opportunity your way possible. Why? Exactly. Yet they don't. They don't. When I'm in larger groups, I will say, how many people in this room right now ever got a lead from their brother or sister? Ever got a lead from their brother or sister? I'm not asking this room, I'm using it as an example. I'll be in front of hundreds of people. Hundreds. How many of you actually got a lead from a brother or sister? Mom or dad? Brother-in-law or sister-in-law? Kids? Neighbors? Right? No hands go up. And I'm like, what, they don't like you? Apparently, sure. Do you think your mom knows what you do? Right? Do you think your mom kind of has an idea what a prospect looks like for you? And yet they don't. They will if you ask them, but they don't normally. Reason. So here's what I say to that real estate agent. You know, Bonnie, I'm looking forward to us doing business together, but I do have one ask. Right? This is before you agree to work with her. If we're able to put a deal together, right, would you feel comfortable sending me some leads over the course of the next year for people that you meet in the course of your real estate business that might benefit from someone with my unique experience? Would you be okay with that? So you think you probably would come across 3 people through the course of the year you could introduce me to?
Probably at least 2.
Okay, all right. So, and I'm not saying we're going to do business together, but if we do business together, you'd be okay trying to introduce me to 2 people through the course of the next year. Okay, good. You see what I've done? Now this isn't hope. I'm no longer hoping I get a referral, right? Hope is what you do when everything goes bad, right? The hope is not a selling strategy. What I've done now is I've created a scenario where she owes me. So after 6 months and she doesn't give me a lead, you know what the call sounds like? Hey, Bonnie, I'm looking in my checkbook and I can't attribute $1 to you. Remember that conversation we had at your kitchen table, right, where we talked about you coming across people? You know, maybe you could take it your Rolodex, right? We've only got 6 months left, and I want to make sure we keep to our 2 agreement. See, most people never do that. Most people never think like that. They see relationships as being one-directional. I'm the customer, you're the vendor. No, I never think like that. I expect every person I give money to. That's why we call it checkbook prospecting. I would go through my checkbook, and every person that you give money to, I expect them to be your best salespeople. I expect you to be their best salespeople, absolutely. Your dentist, your doctor, insurance, your banker, I expect all those to be your best salespeople. Why? Because it's in your best interest and their best interest that you keep making money. Why? So you can buy more of their stuff. But see, most people never think like that. They don't go into the relationship. There's an unlimited amount of people that will take your money. Unlimited amount of people that will take your money. There's an unlimited amount of dentists that will take your money, lawyers, CPAs, architects, builders, mortgage companies. There is an unlimited amount of people that will take your money, and they will do a fine job. I'm not disparaging them, they'll do a great job. But there's equally an unlimited amount of people that will not only do a great job, but they'll also bring leads to you. If you ask them, if you give them the reason, if you set the expectation. I meet somebody at a networking event, I'm going to say, you know what, Randy? I think I got some people in my world that would benefit knowing you. But let me make a suggestion. If I agree to get a lead for you in a week, would you feel comfortable getting a lead for me? I've said that 1,000 times. You know, people say, sure. Because they don't realize that leads come in a couple different categories. One type of lead is somebody that would forward your interest. Forward your interest. The next one is what we call a buying unit. A buying unit. So say, for example, you're a real estate agent. You're a real estate agent. A good lead for a real estate agent would be what? Somebody looking to buy a house, buy or sell a house. That's a buying unit. That's a person that would like to buy or sell a house. The problem being is if I only limit my lead from them to this, that's going to be few and far between. Why? Because they might only come across this person once every year, once every 2 years. But there's a lot of people out there that could forward my interest. So for example, if I was a real estate agent and I couldn't get a buying unit, what would I want an introduction to? What other types of industries would I benefit knowing? Take a stab. Mortgage company, right? Home repairs, a roofer, a landscaper, somebody that does asphalt, somebody who does pest control, somebody who does painting, somebody who does handiwork and carpentry, who can fix some of the things if I come across a property I'm trying to sell that needs some repair work. I've got a strong inventory of people that can do it. So leads come into one of two areas. They, A, are a buying unit, B, someone that can further their interest. But we go back to the I say yes to everything. So I prime the pump. I give you the lead first. Boom. You have the lead first. Now, whose turn is it? Yours, exactly. If you think about it, it's tennis. You know, where is the ball when you lose the point? On your side or your opponent's side? It's on your side, right? So I bring a lead to you. Now all I have to do is wait. I bring a lead to you, which is much easier for me to bring a lead to you than it is for you to bring a lead to you. But every time I bring a lead to you, I know that within 30 days what's likely going to happen.
I'm going to give you a lead.
Exactly. Exactly. A reason. Most people go to BNIs and networking groups and LBNs and Rotaries and all, and which are all great. By the way, I'm not disparaging any one of them. But they go there with the hope of getting something. No, it's not the hope. Hope, again, hope is not a selling strategy. It's what you do when all else fails. You go there saying, I'm going to find 5 people, and I'm going to agree to get leads for these 5 people, which really isn't that hard when you understand this. When you understand the idea of a buying unit as opposed to somebody that can forward their interest. Because if I go there with the idea of giving 5 leads to 5 separate people, what do I know that I'm going to get back? 5 leads, exactly, 5 leads for me. And if you don't I don't get a lead from you in 30 days, what does the call sound like? Hey, Cody, it's your buddy Don. You know, I'm looking at my checkbook and I can't attribute $1 to you, buddy. You know, if this is going to work, I got to get something from you. And I have no problem saying that just that way. Because we went into the agreement, how? I'm going to give one to you, which I did first, right? I primed the pump. But then you got to bring one to me. So if you're letting your end down, it's Survivor Island. I have no problem kicking you to the curb and starting over. That's why when we talk about getting unlimited referrals, that's how we do it. And it's so much easier. We do an entire session on unlimited referrals that it's going to be coming up in, I think it's in August, which is great because it talks in more detail about those things. Let's keep going. So what makes you buy? What gets your attention? What turns you off? People are pretty smart. They know, when last time you responded to an email, what did the email look like? What did it have on it? The last time you got a coupon or somebody called you or you saw something in a newspaper, what got your attention? What made you respond? What did you see that you disliked? Use that. I think we're all very good litmus tests for the things that are out there. But you also have to take into consideration that we live in this terribly, terribly apprehensive world. It's interesting, Tucson is kind of an anomalous situation because this is probably the most fiscally suspicious area I probably have found in my travels in the United States. And when I say fiscally suspicious, there's a phraseology we love to use, and it's kind of a cute thing. They're sitting on their biscuit, not wanting to risk it. And all that essentially says is that even though they know they should be doing something, right? If I go to a business owner, and I go in the abstract, is advertising in a newspaper a good idea for a business? Now, I think 100% of the people would say yes, right? 100% of the businesses would say yes. The problem being is when you move from the abstract to the practical, which means that now you've got to spend $1,000 for the ad, that's where it falls off. But when you ask them in the abstract, it made sense, right? 100% of the people should have financial professionals. 100% of the people should have trainers and coaches that they work with to improve themselves. 100% of the people will say yes. The problem is 100% of the people are going to say, you know what? There's not enough laughs in the world. I need more. I need more. Right? I believe there's unlimited laughs. I believe there's unlimited sunsets. I believe there's unlimited summer. I believe there's unlimited happiness and unlimited money. The dollar I get, I don't take from you. I believe there's unlimited laughter, and you provide that.
Yes, we do.
Exactly. And yet, most people never make the connection. They don't make the connection because they don't say, what makes me buy? What makes me pick up the phone? What makes me go to an event? What has to happen for blah-bitty, 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 blah-bitty to take place? And then they do the opposite. All the things that motivate them, right, they don't do in their own thing. Go figure. And yet they themselves are a great litmus test to talk about a reason why people do what they do. Let's keep going. We got lots of stuff. All right. So a lot of people, because of the fiscal suspicion, right, that's sitting on their biscuit, not wanting to risk it. There's a lot of different ways that you could do it. One of the ways is a demo, all right? And I really do like to do this because I think it really helps a lot of people. Again, people that have this great deal of suspiciousness, they don't know what they don't know. Now, it's interesting, if you go to New York and you talk about sales training, they got it. They know, they understand it. They've probably been through it. They've got, long histories with it. You go to other parts, you go to Des Moines, Iowa, you talk about sales training, and you know what they all say? You're a motivational speaker. No, I'm a sales trainer. No, you're a motivational speaker, because that's the only reference point that they have to work from. Now, I'm not going to beat them up and say that they're wrong, but I'm going to do everything I can to be able to communicate. But the idea of a demo, the idea of giving someone an opportunity to do something for little or no cost, is an important first step, because of this physical suspicion that people have and this unrealistic fear of spending any money, and any money whatsoever, even for the things that are good for them. Everybody should be part of a gym and actually go there. Everyone should have a weight control doctor or a nutritionist or a therapist. Everybody, they know that we have to do this, right? We know that all these things, if you lose weight and you have better health, you're the engine. You're the engine of your business. I say this all the time. You're the engine of your business. If you treat your engine like a Maserati, your business will run like a Maserati. If you treat it like a minivan, it's going to run like a minivan. If you treat it like a POS, that's the way it's going to run. Now, and they know what they should be doing, and yet they don't do it, even though they know that they should. So there's a thing out there called a monkey's paw. A monkey's paw is a reference to a demo or a trial or something like that. So let me explain what that is, and it will make more sense. So if you go back into your 13th century seafaring, which I know you're all experts in 13th century seafaring, at that time, those ships had engines. And when you would get that ship close to port, it was kind of like a controlled crash. You had this waterlogged, super heavy, uncontrollable ship, only powered by the wind, and you're trying to jockey it in, and coming into port was really more of a controlled crash than it was a docking. So the idea is that you were going to get kind of close, and then you were going to throw a line from the boat to the shore, and in a perfect world, they would catch it, and then they would pull the ship in. Well, at that time, the ropes were made of hemp. And hemp, when it gets wet, swells 10 times its size and weight. So now you have this rope that's about this, and then now, when it's waterlogged, is about this and 10 times its weight. So you wanted to be really, really careful, because if you miss that dock or that thing hit the water, you're screwed. Now, any chance you had of that nice, smooth docking now is back to uncontrollable crash. And some genius mind said, well, wait a second. Instead of throwing the rope from the ship to the shore, what if we threw the rope from the shore to the ship? But we're not going to throw a big giant rope. We're just going to throw a small rope. And on the end of it, we're going to put this knot, which bear the resemblance to a monkey's paw. It just looks like a fist. But for some reason, somebody thought that looked like a monkey's paw. So a monkey's paw became synonymous with the idea of a trial or a demo or a free usage or a day pass or something like that. Because what they would do is they would take this little rope and they would throw that up to the ship. Then they would tie the big heavy rope to the little rope, and then they would pull it in like that. So the idea of a monkey's paw became synonymous. In our world, it's inviting somebody complimentary to one of our sessions. In your world, it might be inviting somebody complimentary to one of your shows. It might be a financial review. It might be a leadership evaluation, or Simona, who does wonderful work on our cinematography and our videography, might do a 5-minute video business card. But the idea ultimately is synonymous with some version of trying it out. Why? Because a lot of people don't know what they don't know. They don't know how important it is to have videos online. And I say this to everyone, and for those that are joining us electronically. If you don't exist in the digital media, you don't exist. That's it. If you don't exist in the digital media, you do not exist. The world is online. When was the last time somebody said, you know what, I'm going to go to the Yellow Pages and get a name or a number? No, it doesn't happen. Everything is going to be online. And if you're not there when they're looking, you will be overlooked. So when you have the idea of the monkey's paw concept, it's the idea of some modest version of whatever that you offer. Not with the idea of selling, but the idea of determining whether or not you in fact have a problem. Because one of the adages that we talk about, and for those that are taking notes, write this down. We are problem solvers looking for problems to solve. If your client or prospect does not have a problem, they're not going to pay anything to solve the problem they don't have. If they don't have a problem, they're not going to pay you one dime. So you have to help them. Frequently, I talk to people that when I first meet with them, they were having a good day. But if I want to sell aspirin, what do I have to do?
You look terrible.
Exactly. I got to give you a headache. Sure, if I want to sell aspirin, I got to give you a headache.
Yeah.
So I take the person who I'm just meeting that was having a good day, and I need to make them sick. I need to turn them critical, and then I need to fix them. Because when they came to me, they were having a good day. They didn't know how bad it was. They don't know how much money they're leaving on the table. They don't know how bad their leadership skills or how starved they are for good just enjoyment. They don't know that because no one such as us has ever talked to them about that. I'm now giving you the reason. If I want to sell aspirin, I must first create a headache. Now, I'm not saying that to be mean. But I know that we are problem solvers looking for problems to solve. If they don't think they have a problem, then they're not going to solve anything. They're certainly not going to look to us to solve the problem that they don't think that they have. Let's keep going. You know what? I'm going to write along the side here. Waiting. Waiting. I think one of the things that every salesperson comes across at some point in time in their life is what we call the procrastinative prospect. The person that says, well, you know, we're just thinking about it. Let us think about it. We'll get back with you. You know, I'll call you back after the first of the year. You know what? Summer's our busy season. Let me call you in the winter. And then you call them in the winter and they say, winter's our slow season. Call us in the summer. This is not by accident. I've heard all of these. All right? Waiting. When somebody comes to me and says, we're not making enough money, and then in the next breath they tell me how they can wait 3 months to start making money, you know what I say? Don't do it. If you can wait 3 months, you can wait 6 months. And if you can wait 6 months, you can absolutely wait a year. And if you can wait a year, don't do anything. Keep doing what you're doing now. And you know what they always say? We can't. One of my favorite lines is, how will waiting help you? How will waiting help you? Right? You go into your doctor says, Cody, I got bad news for you. You know what? You got lung cancer. It's bad. I think we got it in time, but it's bad. And this is Cody. And Cody says, you know what, Doc, thanks, but you know what, summer's busy. We got barbecues. We're going to be taking vacations, stuff like that. I'll tell you what, the kids go back to school in September. I'll connect up with you beginning of September.
Cody's going to be dead.
You think? You think? Now, that's an abstract example, but it's on track. How will waiting help? How is waiting to make more money going to help your financial situation now? How preparing for your retirement and then waiting 6 months to do it, how is that going to make sense? Now, nobody ever talks to people like that, right? They blow smoke at them and tell them how great they are, and it's the emperor's new clothes. I don't. Why? Because I'm different, right? I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you're hungry. I don't care if your kids are shoeless. I know that sounds people are like, oh, Don, you're mean. Okay, fine. Go cry in your big pillow, right? No. Am I different enough? Sure, because it's your God-given right to be what? Stupid. It's your God-given right to be unhappy. It's your God-given right to be poor and miserable. It's also your God-given right to be super happy and make a crap load of money. That's your God-given right. You have the right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're getting the results you want, doing it however you're doing it, don't change it. Don't change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're not getting the results you want, what are you going to change? And I'm not saying we're the answer, but I'm saying you have to embrace that change needs to take place in whatever capacity change looks like, and most people won't do that. It's that fear of the unknown. It's the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't know. And you see it in relationships. You see it all the time. People hate their job. They hate their boss. They hate what they do. They hate going in on Monday morning. They can't wait till Friday. And yet their friend says, well, why don't you just leave and find another job? Oh, I don't want to do that. I'd rather be miserable. Hey, you know what? It's your God-given right to be miserable. How will waiting help? When somebody says something that doesn't make sense, there's a line for those that are taking notes, write this down. If you feel it, say it. Don't be mean. Don't be confrontational. Don't be arrogant. Don't be combative. But if you feel it, say it. When somebody says something that just doesn't make any sense, it's okay to say, you know what, Randy? I don't understand what you just said, right? And maybe I'm not hearing it right. Could you explain that a little bit differently? Because the person that says, I can't make payroll on Friday, and then says, call me back, at the end of summer. Well, how does that make sense? The person that says, I'm terrified I'm not going to have enough money at retirement, call me around Christmas. Again, going back to the illustration, if you had lung cancer, you'd want to arrest it right now, today. Let's get rid of it. I'm going in tomorrow, cut this son of a bitch out. Sorry. That's the way most people think. And again, so I want to make sure, again, you have to give them a reason. How is waiting going to help? How is not starting this today ever make sense? Now, most salespeople would never talk to a customer like that or a prospect. They would never talk like that. They want to blow smoke at them because they believe that the more smoke they blow at them, the better off it's going to be. No, if you feel it, say it. If it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't make any sense. And right in the beginning, I'm going to say, Mr. Jones, through the course of our conversation, you may say things that either don't make sense or I disagree with. So would you be okay if in the course of our conversation you say something I disagree with, if I call you out on it and maybe ask for an additional explanation? I've said that 1,000 times. People say, sure. Because if you say something stupid, it's stupid. Again, but most people won't do that. They want to blow smoke at you. They believe that the more times, the better they get you to feel about them, and the better they feel about you, they're going to buy. And I find that's not the case. Absolutely not the case. We are problem solvers looking for problems to solve. If they don't think they have a problem, you'll never, ever make a sale. Okay? Now, for the people that says, I want to wait, when I call them 90 days later, 3 months later, by the way, I do this partially for fun and partially for serious, because it's fun to watch them squirm sometimes. So the person that says they wanted to wait 30 days or 90 days or whatever, when I call them back in 90 days, I'd love to be able to say, so how'd that work out for you? How'd that work out for you? Now, and the reason I say it like that is because rarely does the application of nothing ever come back fruitful. When was the last time you did nothing and it worked out? You have a flat tire in your car and you do nothing. And the next day you go out and it's not flat. Right? When was the last time the application of nothing ever provided fruitful? Never. Never. So if you have a problem today, you likely are not only going to have that problem tomorrow, but it's likely that problem is going to be worse tomorrow. And now you have less time to act upon the problem. Because every day that ticks you by, you're closer to retirement. Every day that ticks you by, you're closer to this. You're closer to bankruptcy. You're closer to your mansion, whatever it is. Right? There's no stasis in the universe. There's no standing still. You're either expanding or contracting. And when you approach people with that, it doesn't take them very long to go, I'm going backwards. Right? My portfolio was $1.1 million 2 years ago. Now it's $800,000. Right? You don't need to emotionally charge them. They're already there. So I love to be able to say, well, how much longer are you going to wait? How low does it have to go before you're finally going to do something. Why? Because that's what serious people say. Serious people don't blow smoke at people. When I say that, people look at me like I just showed them fire for the first time, right? If you were sitting down with, a real serious businessman talking about a multi-billion-dollar deal, there's no pleasantries being bantered about the room. It's like a street fight. Why? Because something really is going to happen there. It isn't you blow smoke at me and I blow smoke at you. It's like I need $1 billion. You're going to give it to me or not? Fine. No, screw you. I'm going to go someplace else, and that other person likely will. And yet, most people don't think like that. They see their customers and prospects like a China egg. Now, I'm not saying be mean. I'm not saying be combative. I'm not saying be argumentative. But I'm saying if you treat these people like a China egg, there's a very good chance you're never going to get down to the nitty-gritty dirty of doing something. I'll give you a great example. I'll make sure we stay on time. When you bought your first house, the first house Janet and I bought was $67,000. $67,000, like 1992. That's a car nowadays. $67,000. And I remember when the real estate agent pushes the paperwork to me, and she says, we need a $5,000 check and push hard because it's 3 copies. Now keep $67,000, right? My hand is shaking. I look over my shoulder at Janet. I go, are we doing the right thing? The last house I bought was more than $67,000. It was like, here, give me it. Fine, here's your check. That's it. In serious situations, nobody's smiling. Nobody's smiling. Nobody's acting glib. When there's real business taking place, it isn't frivolous. I work with a lot of car dealerships, and one of the things that people in the car dealerships, the experienced people, will tell me, I can tell you if they're going to buy a car. And I'll be, why is that? He goes, if I see a husband and wife come in and they're laughing and they're joking and they're being silly and stuff like that, I know they're not buying. Right? That's why they're just being silly and jovial, because they're not buying. What I want is the guy, the husband and wife, that's stone-faced. Right? When the guy's walking in, he looks over his wife and says, we're not buying anything today, we're just looking. That guy will buy every time.
Oh, yeah.
It's not by accident. Sure, because when something serious is going to happen, somebody's buying a house or a car or a job or whatever, it's not frivolous, it's not stupid, it's not comic, it's serious. So when you think of that thing, that waiting 3 months, when that person says, well, call me back after after summer. And I will call them back if we've agreed to do that, because I'm really good at follow-up. And I'd say, okay, we waited 3 months. How'd that work out for you? Out of the thousands of times I've said that, I can only figure out 1 or 2 that it actually worked out better, and one of them only because their aunt died and left them a lot of money. So now, if you got an aunt that's swirling the drain, okay, you might be the second one. But the reality is, again, when was the last time waiting made sense for anything? Now, a lot of people would never say that because they couldn't imagine saying that to a client. I would absolutely encourage you to say that. That's, again, when really selling takes place. Let's keep going. We've got to knock out a couple more of these before we're done for today. Go for the no. Going for the no. All that essentially means is if I do everything in my power to get you to say no, and you still don't say no, I have something. If I do everything in my power, so say, for example, I'm talking to somebody, and they're telling me, we don't have any money, 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 we don't have any money. And by the way, I'm not a charity, nor am I a nonprofit. So if you tell me you don't have any money, what are you likely not for me? A client, right? Because I'm in the money business, as we all are, right? We are all in the money business. So when I think of something that going for the no philosophy is, so if I do everything that I can do to get you to say no and you still don't say no, I might have something. Let me give you an illustration. So I'm talking to somebody and they say, we don't have any money, we don't have any money, we don't have any money. I'm going to say to this person, well, Bob, why in the world do you want to pay me a whole boatload of money to teach you how to sell? Right? Why don't you just, go to Redbox, get a Tony Robbins CD or Zig Ziglar, or get a book or Audible or something like that. Get your guys in the conference room, throw out a couple of pizzas and a couple liters of pop and listen to Zig Ziglar. Right? That's free or close to free. You know what Bob says always? We did that. How'd that work out for you? Well, not very good. Well, how are you hoping I can help you? Right? I've already told you it's going to cost you a boatload of money. I've done everything I can. I even told you what to do to not do business with me. And yet, if I do everything in my power to get you to say no, and you still don't say no, right? Hey, listen, if you come to our company, we're going to expect you to bring all your assets over here. It's going to be intensive for the first couple weeks we get together. We're going to have a lot of meetings. We do a lot of research. We're going to fill out a lot of forms. If you're a real estate agent, we're going to look at a lot of house. Whatever it is in your world, show them the most extreme version of whatever that is. And if they still don't say no, you might have something. Because most people would never say that. Most salespeople would never say, Bob, I got to tell you, I'm going to charge you a boatload of money. What salesperson would say that? Who? That would never make any sense, except for the people that actually sell. Because everybody else is saying, well, no, if you come to us, we're the cheapest. No way. I had a friend of mine sold his company for $200 million. Had a relationship with a wonderful person back in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, at Merrill Lynch, by the way, right? Been with that person for 30 years, loved him, right? He gets $200 million, you know what he does? He doesn't go back to the person who's been with him for 30 years. He gets a money manager out of New York that was charging him twice as much as the person he was dealing with for the last 30 years. Why? Because this person's average client, right, was $150 million. He had $200 million, so it's going to be $150 million. You know the size of the average client here? 400,000. This was in Michigan at the time. 400,000. Even though he had a great relationship, loved them, they worked great together. Remember how we talked about second, right? He didn't go back to the person he'd been with for 30 years. He went to a stranger and paid twice as much. Why? Because that guy routinely dealt in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Right? Go for the no. If I do everything, Bob, I'd love to sit down with you, but I got to tell you right up front, if we don't take all your assets here, we won't be able to take you as a client. We're not one of those, you give me a little, you give me a little, you give me a little. We're just not like that. I just want to tell you right up front. Most people would never say that. They would never say anything other than, tell me whatever you want, we'll do whatever you want. Right? Because the perception is what? If I blow enough smoke at you, if I smile enough and I'm nice, and of course you're going to come and be with me. That's never, ever, ever the case. If you think about everything in their world, it boils down to this. Their favorite radio station is what? There you go. What's in it for me? They don't care about you. They're not bad people. They just don't care about you. They don't care about your problems, your issues, your concerns, nothing. They care about themselves. And yet, more times than not, when you talk to somebody, you want to tell them about you. Well, Mr. Jones, our company's been around 900 years, and we've got 1,000 this, and we got 47 trucks, and we, do blah-bitty, 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 blah-bitty. They don't care. They care about themselves. I tell people all the time, people come to me to double their, triple their business. That's it. They wouldn't care how it happens. If I said, listen, Bob, I want you to go. I want you to get some chicken bones. Here's a bag of magic dust. I want you to throw it on your desk and mix it around and say these words. They don't care. They want the solution. They want the end. They want a what? A reason. If you don't have a reason, people are not going to look at you today. There's so much noise in the machine. There are so many things that are competing for their interest. There's so many things that are competing for their attention. If you don't give them a reason, there's a very, very good chance that they're never going to be anything to you. So what I want to do is I know we have a small group because we don't really play to the cameras, but I just want to go in the room, get one thing you picked up from today that was your golden nugget. Randy, what did you get from today?
I kind of like the idea of the way you want to do it, the new way or the old way.
I love that, sure.
I think it opens up the conversation.
Exactly. See, that's the thing. All you want is, because when you say that, 99% of people say, I don't know, right? So what's the old day of going out with your family? What's the old version of going out with your family? What would it be? Just for our illustration. You go to a movie, right? You go have, some fast food Denny's dinner or something like that. You go to a movie, you get a couple things, and then you go home. Right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, for the people in the movie business and restaurants, and I love Denny's, by the way, right? Right? That's the old way. You know what this is? And then you tell them what this is, right? When was the last time you went to a comedy club? And I mean really laugh to your belly like you couldn't laugh anymore, right? And they talked about all the fun stuff in your youth, and they triggered all these great memories that you haven't thought about last time you saw Lion King, right? And you went home, right? And now you have this great experience. That's the new way. And by the way, it's probably going to be less expensive than all the stuff you were buying at that theater. That's the new way. You see how when you make the illustrations different, you have your choice. You can do it that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't forego trying this out because it's really special. Stephanie, what'd you get?
If you feel it, say it.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yes.
But don't be
Don't be cruel or mean
Sure.
or aggressive.
right.
Or
Argumentative, combative. Right. So if somebody says something stupid, say, you know what, Bob, I've been doing this a long time. I got to tell you, I haven't had that experience. Right? When somebody says, I want to wait, I'm like, Bob, I've been doing this a long time. You know, I have not had, other than one client, right, that waiting benefited them. In fact, if anything, it's usually worse. And a lot of times that 30 days or 90 days is enough to make it fatal. You know, I'm okay with you doing what you want, but again, if you feel it, say it. I don't believe anyone, and if you feel uncomfortable about that, say it up front. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if in the course of our conversation you mention something that is contrary to what I understand it to be, would you be okay if I said that? Right? I'm not saying you're wrong, but if you're operating under something that isn't correct, I don't want you to continue in that direction. Would you be okay with that? And I've said a version of that 1,000 times. You know what they're like? Oh my God, yes! If I'm doing something wrong, don't keep telling me it's okay. Right? Doesn't make any sense. Steve, what'd you get?
Basically, figure out what your problem is, make it worse, and show them how you can fix it.
Exactly. We're problem solvers looking for problems to solve.
Problem educate, solve.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about it, again, always consider, they were having a good day. Before you showed up on their doorstep, they were probably fine. They were thinking it's a good day. I got to make them sick. I got to turn them critical. Then I got to fix them. Cody, you have last word. What'd you get, buddy?
I got the say it based off how you deal with also the waiting prospect. Literally had something happen today. Someone said, hey, I got to cancel our meeting, call me back in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, call you back in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, here's what go ahead.
Person today. 6
Yeah.
months later.
Well, here's what I would say.
Cancer.
Yeah. What's going to happen in 6 months? I mean, if you can wait 6 months, and we don't need to talk ever. It doesn't, again, if you can wait that long, you don't need me, right? Why? If you can wait 6 months before you need to be worried about making more money, you don't need a sales trainer. Keep doing whatever you're doing. Because again, the serious people want it now. I'll give you my parting comment, which is a great follow-up. So I've got this guy on the phone. This is like about a year ago, right? And he's like, oh my God, it's Tuesday. Can't make my payroll, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to lose my ass. You know, my wife doesn't know how bad it is. Our house is in Hawk, blah, blah, blah. Terrible, terrible, terrible. You know, you got it. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Now, keep in mind, my coaching sessions start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, if you're on the East Coast and there's that time switch, that's 4 o'clock our time. So I have coaching sessions that start at 4 o'clock in the morning for my East Coast clients when it's 7 o'clock there. So here's what I say. I said, I'll make a deal. I go, well, my sessions generally start, here at 4 o'clock in the morning. It'd be 7 there. I said, but I'll make a deal with you. If you want to start, I'll actually do you at 3. You and I will talk at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what he says? There's silence on the phone. He goes like this. Wow, that's pretty early. And you know what I said? You know what? I can't help you. Goodbye. Click. Right? The guy who just said, I'll do anything, I'll do anything, I'll do anything, now is telling me it's too early, right? Where were we? Oh, low, medium, high value dues. Now, I wouldn't have done every session with this guy at 3 o'clock in the morning. We would have found out a way to do it better. But when the first time he says no, you know what he should have said? Don, I know it's a lot to ask, but could we do one at 2 o'clock in the morning and do 2 hours instead of 1? If he would have said that, I would have made sure that guy made money. But the guy who says, I'll do anything, was already telling me how he's not going to do everything. So that's a great parting comment. So thank you so much for the people that are studio audience, for the people that are joining us online. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. I know I always say this, that the contribution you're making to your sales education will come back to you many times over, and I truly appreciate you being here. It's a privilege to be able to do so. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Good selling. Bye-bye. You can clap. No, you can clap. Absolutely clap. And we are out. Thank you, everybody. Was that fun?